Let's be honest, you probably have enough clothes. But if you're going to ignore that fact, which I know you are, let's do it the smart way, shall we? New clothes in this economy? In this video, I'm going to plead my case for thrifting or buying secondhand, even if the idea of wearing someone else's jeans gives you the ick.
Who are you people that thrift? I've been wanting to ask this question for months.
Like a lot of people, I discovered thrifting through necessity. Not because my family was particularly poor, we were technically middle class. After all, my father did own a relatively successful business and would often brag about just how much money each job brought in. But he was also terrible with money, to the point where he would send our family into crippling credit card debt.
Cause I have $30,000 in credit card debt.
Buying every little and not so little thing that he wanted for a new niche hobby or hyperfixation, a lot of which were not cheap by the way, which he'd then lose interest in about a month. Now you guys know why I'm hesitant to take on new hobbies. I'm scared of my own genetics. So when it came time for buying back to school clothes, I became very familiar with the inside of a Goodwill. You see, my mom is kind of the opposite of my dad. She's super frugal and she knows how to stretch a dollar, hence why she's the one who introduced me to thrifting in the first place. But even though growing up, back in my day, wearing hand-me-downs was kind of a faux pas, I learned to love it. It became a way for me to experiment with my style and express myself in ways that none of my peers were doing at the time. And when I was making $8 an hour at 16 years old, paying $1.50 for a top felt smart. Especially when that top slayed harder than anything in the mall clearance section. Now time for a quick confession. I am in fact not the queen of sustainability, and I think it's important to admit that. Perfection is not the goal, progress is. I do thrift, but also sometimes I buy new. Nowadays I try to make that from as many small businesses as I can financially swing it, investing in good quality pieces from people who will actually financially benefit from my purchase, rather than purchasing something that was made by pretty much slave labor. I've also reviewed a few fast fashion and fast fashion adjacent brands on this channel, so I want to be completely transparent about that. I'm not trying to hide anything or make any claims as far as moral superiority, but I am always trying to do better. At this point, 95% of my wardrobe is either thrifted or secondhand. So how much clothes are we making each year as a society? Well, according to my rudimentary research, aka Google, it's about 100 billion new garments each year. And you know how much textile waste that creates? 92 million tons. Yes, I said tons, not pounds. Multiply that ish by 2000 and proceed to panic, because that's a lot. In the US alone, about 85% of textiles, about 11 million tons worth, end up in landfills every year. Land of the free, more like land of the trash.
I'm the trash man.
That's about 81.5 pounds of textile waste per person per year. Put simply, we are making way more clothes than we can actually use. We own 60% more clothes than we did 15 years ago, but we wear them half as often. So how does thrifting help? Can't we still overconsume even if everything is thrifted? Absolutely. For the love of God, do not look in my closet. I never have enough hangers. I swear to God, they just keep disappearing on me. But here's the thing. Thrifting with intention makes all the difference. Buying a $3 top that you'll never wear is still wasteful, even if it was only $3. Buy what you love, buy what you'll use, and leave the rest for someone else's glow up. However, compared to buying new, thrifting a garment saves it from the landfill death cycle and puts it back into circulation. If enough of us do that, maybe, just maybe, we can affect supply and demand. Shout out to 8th grade economics. Yes, I was paying attention in class, thank you very much, even though that was like a million years ago. Again, I am no expert on sustainability. I do my best. And that, my friends, is better than doing nothing. What matters is what you have access to, how much time and energy you can invest, and what works for you. I'll link some more in-depth resources down below, as well as my sources, because while I'm just a thrift-addicted goblin with Wi-Fi and a DSLR, other people have really broken it down better than I ever could. Speaking of, I recently discovered this baddie.
Bing, bop, boom, 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 bop, bam. The type of shit I'm on you wouldn't understand. The type of skits I'm on you wouldn't understand.
She is an absolute vibe, and her videos and editing style are just mwah. One comment that I always get, or I always see in other people's videos, is, "Don't tell everyone to thrift. There won't be anything left for the poors." Okay, but the people actually saying this usually aren't actually poor. They're just pretending to care so they can gatekeep. Remember what I said earlier? We're producing more clothes than we can wear. So where do you pray tell that overflow goes when you have your yearly existential crisis, where you load up a half a dozen garbage bags full of clothes that no longer fit your vibe? Yes, that's right, the thrift store. Donations have skyrocketed in recent years, to the point where thrift stores have no idea what to do with all this crap. About 45% of unsold clothing is exported to Africa, Latin America, and Asia. And this has its own problems, like hurting the local textile industries and also causing environmental harm. But despite that, a ton of it still ends up in the trash. Your Kiss Me I'm Irish shirt from the St. Patty's Day pub crawl that you went to in 2017, not being worn by a child in need, probably floating in the ocean somewhere. But now we must address the overpriced elephant in the room. Yes, prices at some, if not most, thrift stores are going up. And yes, resellers do get blamed for that. But let's be abundantly clear here. That's not the full story, folks. People are thrifting more than ever because people are struggling. It's a sign of the times, and it's a huge recession indicator. The dollar doesn't go as far as it used to. To match the buying power of someone working minimum wage in the 1970s, you'd have to be making $66 an hour in 2025. So when people joke about how their parents and grandparents bought their house for a shoestring and a gumdrop back in the 1980s, only to sell it in the 2020s for $500,000, perhaps that is only slightly hyperbolic. Most resellers, they're not greedy. They're side hustling to survive, to feed their families, to pay their rent. God forbid someone tries to improve their lives and also enjoy the thrill of the hunt along the way. The real issue? Greedy corporate thrift chains jacking up prices in response to ever-increasing interest. Because what do you mean you want $10 for a crusty Forever 21 tank top? So don't get mad at the girl reselling vintage on Depop to afford groceries while she's putting herself through college. Get mad at the billion-dollar chain trying to charge high-end prices for things they literally got for free. We need secondhand options more than ever. Not just for clothes, but also electronics, household goods, appliances, everything. I say, if you can get it used, do it.
Do it.
And with tariffs on imported goods in the United States in 2025, making fast fashion more expensive than ever, even that's no longer an option for low-income families. So here's what I suggest for my baddies on a budget, or just normal people if you don't identify as a baddie. Here are my top 3 tips for making thrifting more sustainable and more affordable. Number 1, avoid big thrift chains if they're price gouging. I know these chains are a lot more accessible for people in different areas, but we must vote with our dollar. Shop and donate at small local shops, especially ones that actually support charity and don't line the pockets of their CEOs. Number 2, cut out the middleman. Join or start local buy-sell trade groups or buy-nothing groups. A buy-nothing group being a place where people can both give away and also request specific items that they need. Think Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, OfferUp, local flea markets, estate sales. We're talking local cash-in-hand transactions with no corporate cuts. Number 3, the bins. And yes, the bins are technically run by Greedwill, but that's where clothes go to die. Yes, that is the last stop before clothes get sent to the landfill. You pay by the pound, so it's a lot cheaper than buying individual items at a retail shop, and you're literally saving items from the trash. Listen, even if you're not here to save the world, you still probably want to look cool and have a unique style. And nothing builds a killer wardrobe like thrifting. Why? Because you're not pulling from this season's micro trends. You're exploring a vast collection of handmade, vintage, or one-of-a-kind pieces. Thrifting can challenge you creatively. You might even start upcycling, thrift flipping, or repurposing things. Altering, mending, giving items a new life instead of leaving them to rot in the landfill somewhere. See, that's my biggest motivation. Through thrifting, I feel like I found my unique style and voice, one that's still evolving, and hopefully will continue to do so. If you love thrifting and want to share your testimony, go ahead and drop your best thrift finds down in the comments down below. Let your voice be heard to the doubters who will inevitably be down in the comments as well, complaining or making excuses. And also, I'm just curious and nosy and want to know what you've found. If you like this video, do me a huge favor. Like it because it'll help this video get out to people who need to hear this. Also, share it with someone who needs convincing. Maybe your bestie who still refuses to go thrifting with you, or to your mom who still thinks thrift stores videos are gross and weird. Subscribe if you like thrift content and whimsical style and you want to see more. And a big thank you to my patrons and my channel members for being my biggest hype fam. If you would like to join the ranks of the coolest people on the internet, links to join are below. But if not, thank you for being here and watching the whole thing. And I love you lots, even if you left a hate comment, especially if it was creative. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.